The following is a Hoop Ball presentation.
Hello and welcome to the Hoop Ball NBA DFS Today podcast. Today is Tuesday, December 10th, and I am Joe Sarvati, affectionately known as Coach. And I am going to break down a nice, juicy 4-game slate with you for Tuesday night's action. We have a lot of very interesting intrigue in tonight's matchups, including Carmelo back in New York, amongst several other things. So should be a very fun night of basketball, even though it's a smaller 4-game slate. Before we get started, I'd like to thank our presenting sponsor, Hawaiian Isles Kona Coffee Company. Just took a big sip before we went on the air here. I am recording this Tuesday morning. I know we usually do them in the evening, but the last couple that I've been doing alone, I've wanted to wait until morning so I could get a little bit more news, a little bit more updated lines, just try to give you guys a little bit of an edge. So we will be going through the 4 games today. Again, thank you to Dan Bespris at our home hub back there at hoop-ball.com. He's doing all of the organizing of all the podcasts and distribution and everything else that gets done at our home office there. So thank you, Dan. Okay, we have a pretty cool lineup here. So let's jump right in. Like I said, it's a 4-game slate. The first game of the night is a 7 p.m. game Eastern, and that's the Washington Wizards 7-15 at the Charlotte Hornets 9-16. And last time these teams met, they lit up the scoreboard, and I would anticipate that that's going to happen again. So this will probably, or I should say most definitely, be the most stacked game of the night, without question. Let's look at that line. Right now, the Wizards are actually a road favorite. Who would believe that? 2.5-point favorite. And the over-under is the biggest of the night, 230. The Wizards have a 116 implied total, and the Hornets 114. So you've got 2 teams that can score, 2 teams that aren't good defensively, an up and down pace in a somewhat slower paced 4-game slate. So let's dive really deeply into this first game. You're probably going to need 3 or 4 from this game to have a winning lineup. So on the pace side of the coin here, the Wizards right now are 3rd in the league in pace, so they are getting up and down the floor. It is a big pace down game for them. Charlotte is 26th, so that is a little bit of a concern for all of the Davis Bertans and more Mo Wagner and all the people that are jumping on these value Wizards guys. It is a bit of a pace down, but like I say, last time these two played earlier this season, they did light up the scoreboard. From a defensive efficiency standpoint, though, I think you're going to love this. How about last and second to last? That is correct. Not first time that's happened this year. You've got the 29th and 30th, the 2 worst defensive teams in the league. So that definitely, if that doesn't spell, Stack City, I'm not sure what does. So, as we look into these two teams a little bit, you've got 2 squads that, not winning a lot of games, but playing a little bit more up tempo and exciting basketball. On the Wizards side, I had already mentioned a couple of the value plays. Bertans is just absolutely shooting the eyes out of the hoop lately. So not sure if they'll put a little more emphasis on guarding him, but man, it seems like he gets 7, 8 somewhat open 3 attempts every game, and let him get squared up and see the hoop, and he's going to knock him down. He's in the top 10 in 3-point field goal percentage. He's in the top 5 in 3-point field goals made, and he's only started 1 game this year, so he's doing all of that damage off of the bench. But he is a fun guy to roster. He will grab a few rebounds. He's definitely got some size, so he's not going to be just completely scoring dependent. So he's certainly a guy you got to look at. His price is still good. Mo Wagner, again, that guy gets out and hustles. He does get in foul trouble because he plays super hard, but he is certainly a rosterable guy, if that's a word. Especially against a Charlotte's front line that has not been that great defensively, especially with Cody Zeller in there. They do have a little bit of a bump up when they bring Bismack Biyombo in, but that's, there may be a rotation of players. He may face Ian Mahimi, the backup center from the Wizards. So, I think Wagner, very playable. Bertans, certainly very playable. We have another Ish Smith game, and with Isaiah being out, Ish has done a great job. I actually think he's a better player, all the way around than Isaiah is. So there's another guy that's rosterable. So that's 2 uses of the word rosterable in one podcast already, and so there's 3 guys from the Wizards, but that's not even my favorite guy. I think this is a Bradley Beal night. I think he's the best scorer in this game. I think Charlotte doesn't really have a defensive answer. When they were playing Bacon quite a bit, he's a pretty stout defender, but he's sort of been shuffled out of minutes, and they've been going with Devontae and Terry Rozier in the backcourt. So I think Beal just dominates in this game. This just feels like a 40 real point kind of game for Bradley Beal. So he's my first foundational piece on the slate. I will put in a couple of those other Wizards. Either Smith and Wagner probably. I just hate to jump on the Bertans bandwagon with 9 million other people because he's going to be so highly owned. But that's a pretty hefty side on the Wizards side. As far as the Hornets go, it's a little bit more difficult. You've got Devontae Graham that certainly should be highly considered, especially for a correlation play between Beal and Graham. I think that makes a ton of sense. I think they'll both be pretty highly owned. But it's certainly the best play on the Charlotte side as far as the highest floor and the highest ceiling. He's been, without question, their leader throughout the year. Terry Rozier, hit or miss, boom or bust kind of guy. You can go that route if you want. I think a lot of people will in this up-tempo game. I'm not sure I'm going to go there, but I certainly can see a reason why that would be a direction you want to go. A guy that I have not rostered, I think maybe once all season, because he has had some just horrible games, but he seems to be snapping out of it in the last week, and that's Miles Bridges. His price is still decent. He does get a lot of rebounds. He's a high flyer, so he is somewhat of he's a great GPP play for sure. But I think I may put him in my cash lineup for the first time, actually the second time this year. So that's the direction I'm leaning on the Hornets. The other guys are all a little too risky for me, certainly for cash. So there's a good solid 5-man build, and most of my ownership diving on this first game of the night. But I think you need it. I think that I think this is the game to stack. I think like I say, if you don't play at least 3 or even 4 from this game, you're going to be playing catch up in the other 3 games all night. Excuse me. Let me take a quick updated look at both teams live as far as player news goes. Since we're doing this day of, it might as well take advantage of that. Okay, on the Hornets side, Marvin Williams doubtful with a sore right knee. So, that probably means a little upgrade in minutes for PJ Washington. So he becomes in play. He's probable with a right ankle sprain, but he's coming off a 2-game stretch here. Very impressive. 17 points, 6.5 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 blocks, and 2 made threes. So there you go. That could be the hidden gem that we just stumbled upon, and that in the likes of PJ Washington. I may very well make the pivot from Miles Bridges to PJ Washington. I mean, the additional minutes that he'll get with Williams off the floor, and obviously he's been red hot. Obviously a great matchup, a big pace-up game for them. So I think I have just convinced myself into PJ Washington. So he's gonna be in there. Let's look on the other side of the ball just to make sure we don't have any other news there. We already know that Isaiah Thomas is out with a left calf strain. He'll be out for at least 1 more week, according to this. And they're already talking here about trying to re-sign Davis Bertans. He's the talk of the town. He has an expiring $7 million contract, which is basically free square for the Wizards. This dude is going to get paid. With his 3-point prowess and his height, he is going to be a very wealthy man this offseason. Okay, that's the only news from that game. I want to spend quite a bit of time on it because I think it is the key game of the night. And there you have 5 of my guys going on the board from that game. All right, second game of the night, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time game. Denver Nuggets 14-7 at the Philadelphia 76ers 17-7. So you got 2 nice squads playing here. Let's start this one out with player news. Because with Philly, they've had so many guys in and out. Live player news. Josh Richardson is questionable with his hamstring, so that's very important to follow that one. There's no news on Simmons or Embiid. They're looking like they're in and good to go. The dreaded Matisse Thybulle, I played him 2 games ago, and he had 8 fantasy points. And then last game, he went bonkers. He had 5 threes and a career-high 20 points. If you take Matisse Thybulle, you're gambling blind. You might as well play the lottery. But, all right, so that's the player news. The line on the game is the Sixers are only favored by 4.5, which is pretty low for a home game. But here's the problem. Total in the game 207, which is low. Philly, a 106 implied total, and the Nuggets 101. So, they're expecting this to be a real defensive, grinded out game, and I think it will. As far as pace goes, that backs us up. Denver is 27th in the league in pace. Philadelphia is, where are they? 18th. So some pretty slow pace in this one. And you've also got 2 teams that can really D it up. Denver 2nd and Philly 6th. So you got 2 top 6 teams, and this will have just that slow it down, bang it out, Jokic, Embiid type of feel to it. A lot of talent in this game. There are some certainly guys you can fire up, but For me, I'm not going there unless, I want to see if Josh Richardson, what the news is there. And I'll tell you why, because if Josh Richardson plays, I think that he'll probably stone Jamal Murray pretty good. I think he is one of the better on-ball defenders in the league. If he's not playing, I think Murray becomes playable. His price is still fair enough. You can fire him up. Simmons is coming off a phenomenal game, but Denver has some good defense and they really slow it down. I really don't want to even touch the Embiid Jokic thing. I am not. I just don't think in this pace game that you need to go there and spend that kind of salary on those two guys. So if you do, if you roster some guys from this game, it will be somewhat of a contrarian play. You may want to throw a few of them on a GPP lineup, but as far as cash goes, I just don't see myself going anywhere here. I don't see enough value, and I don't want to spend up for a Simmons or Harris or Jokic or Embiid or dependent on the defense, even Murray. So that's it. Pretty boring there, but I just, you can pluck a guy out of that game. The other reason I love to fade that game is it's the TNT national TV game. And I'm convinced, because I've done this for multiple years here, you can just see every player in the national TV game is, usually 2 to 5% more owned just because it's a national TV game. For all the people that don't have the ticket and are watching the game, you'd be surprised how many are a lot more liable to suit up a guy or two so they can watch them. So that even creates more of a fade scenario for me. So that's it. All right, that's the halfway point, because we only have 4 games tonight. Weird after doing a million games before. A couple things, I really do appreciate all the great comments. We're getting a lot of feedback on Twitter. You can always DM me with any questions or comments. I'm at Joe Sarvadi, JoeSarvadi. And listen to us every day. We generally put this out in the evening, so late evenings. You can listen to it first thing in the morning. When I do the solo shows, a lot of times I'll wait till morning to get more updated news, and it'll go out mid to late morning. So, listen to it throughout the day. Start building your shell lineups, get an idea of which direction you want to go. I had a really good question I wanted to sort of share on the air. Somebody last night had sent me several messages. We were going back and forth, and they said, they play multiple sites, but they were getting a little frustrated because, they hit on one site and lose on the others, and then they end up coming out even or a little bit behind all the time. They just don't feel like they could get caught up. Well, don't play all the sites just to play all the sites. What I would do is look at the pricing, determine who you like for that day, and see where it fits. It's amazing, the different pricing. There are nights where I will play a lot on all 4 sites. I play DraftKings, Fantasy Draft, FanDuel, and Yahoo. But there are nights where I will play maybe one lineup on one site. It just depends on, how I rate the slate, as far as, is this, look like a profitable slate with good value, or is it a really bad slate? It looks like traps all over the place. So, you have to manage this like you manage your bank account. You really do. I mean, look at this as, an investment you're making in a small business each night. And if you're just, you have the night off, you're going to watch all the games, and you want to load up just because of that, you're making a mistake. If it's a great slate, but you've got, to go out that night, or you have to work that night, so you're going to play light, that's a mistake. Let the slate determine your play. Let the pricing on each individual site present what you want to do. Because, there are if there's 2 or 3 main plays that you like, and they're priced way down on FanDuel, for example, but priced up on DraftKings. Don't play DraftKings. Just play FanDuel that night and the other sites that meet your specific pricing and the guys you like. So, I can't really impress that on you any more than that. Is, go in with an open mind, look at it on how you want to do it. And, if it's a slate that you just think is perfect, the pricing is great all over the place, then that's when you roll it up and you go out there and play on all the sites and, get to know the nuances of each site and each contest, because the worst thing you can do is enter stuff that you don't know what you're entering, or you're not sure how the scoring works. The pricing on these different sites is extremely different. Yahoo's single digits. You get your low price guys at $10, your high price guys usually in the 50s, and then you go into just completely different pricing on FanDuel and DraftKings. They set their own numbers. And then Fantasy Draft just almost sort of takes DraftKings stuff and doubles it. So that's how they build the pricing. But you have to look at that as you're building lineups, determining what you want to play. So that's a key factor. It doesn't matter if you play cash or GPP. Let that guide you in what you're playing. But I would say diversify over multiple sites, because it helps you find those good plays. If you just play DraftKings and you happen to love Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons that night, but they're the two highest, salaried guys, and it looks like they're going to be high ownership, but yet, you're not playing anywhere else, you don't see other options, you're really pigeonhole yourself there, and it's not a good thing. Where maybe they're a lot cheaper on Yahoo that night, you just dive over there. So anyway, that's an important point I wanted to make, and I appreciate the question and banter that came about last night, because I did want to share that with you guys. So anyway, start your day every day with us. We appreciate that. Get your Hawaiian Isles Kona coffee like I have right here. And you can search for us anywhere podcasts are found. Just search NBA DFS today, or DFS today, or even just DFS podcasts. I mean, we're really getting a lot of action right now. So we're going to come up wherever you're searching for us. We are on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, Podbean, iHeart, Spotify, YouTube, you name it, we're there. And we just ask that you take a second or two, after listening, rate, review, subscribe. That's all important stuff. Star it, put an alert there. So when, our show is posted, so you can jump on and listen. And it really helps us. Those 5 stars and likes, positive comments, thumbs up on YouTube, that kind of stuff. It all means a lot to us. It allows us to figure out our listenership, the growth. It allows us to get out there and start looking for some of the right sponsors. We're being real particular of who we associate with. We want the right light minds and businesses to work with. And so we really appreciate that. That is a real help to us each day. Also, again, it's a 3-step process. Listen to the show, build that shell lineup, and then throughout the day, follow the news. You have to follow all the way up until lock. Sometimes monster news comes out 5 minutes before lock. You got to scramble and make those adjustments, because it only takes one dud player to screw you over. Last night, I would have taken down a tournament. It wasn't my fault, though. This isn't a news thing, but Austin Rivers got scratched, and he was my value guy that I plugged in for the Rockets. So sad story is he had flu-like symptoms on the bench, and they said, get out of the bench. We don't want you getting everybody else sick. And he was a scratch after lock, and, boom. But if that news would have come out, 5 minutes before, I could have saved that lineup and made a quick pivot. So listen to our show, follow all of the news, jump on hoop-ball.com, click on forums, click on the DFS thread. You've got Miles and Andy posting things in there all day long. I'm going to be putting stuff in there, player news, and our other DFS pros will be doing the same. Also at Hoopball Fantasy on Twitter. That's where all the blurbs, all the news, everything's going up there. And then our DFS pros, they're at MikeApotria. That's Mike Apotria. And then Andrew Hansen's at Language Olympic. And Miles Hartley's at Miles6565. All right, let's finish the other two games and let you guys get on with your day. The second 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time game is the Atlanta Hawks 6-17 at the Miami Heat 17-6. We're going to jump on updated to the moment player news. We have Alex Len as probable. He's been getting some of the minutes at the big, splitting time there. We know DeAndre Bembry came off the bench. So it looks like they're up and going. Crab is playing. Hunter's playing. Reddish is playing. Herter's back, but on a minutes restriction, up to 25 minutes as of the last game. So let's see if that's been raised at all. He's a great play if it's up to 30 minutes. Herter gets fantasy points per minute, but they do have a lot of bodies now. All of a sudden, they were so shorthanded. Now they got a bunch of guys splitting minutes. That definitely takes a little sting out of everybody riding sort of the Trae Young, Jabari Parker, because all the rest of the guys were down or not 100%. So it's going to take a little bit better look to make that determination whether those guys are playable. As far as on the Miami side, let's see. Dion Waiters, Mr. Gummy Bears, they're questionable for this game. Why? If you play Dion Waiters in your lineup, please DM me on all sites for head-to-heads. Thank you. Bam Adebayo, questionable for Tuesday versus Atlanta. That is some big-ass news right there. That changes everything in this game. It opens things up for Atlanta in the paint. It allows you to get some value with guys like Kelly O or Miles Leonard. So it's something definitely to watch there. We already know that Goran Dragic ruled out. Justice Winslow ruled out. So what that does is immediately puts three guys into high consideration. And I want to fit like two of them in there. And that would be the trio of Kendrick Nunn, Tyler Hero, and Jimmy Butler. So figuring out which guys can fit playing against a lousy Atlanta defense, I think you got to have two Miami guys in your winning lineup. I mean, that's just such a great play to add to the stack of that first game. Let's look at pace of play real quick. Atlanta is tied for 9th in pace, so they're getting up and down the floor. And Miami is 20th, so not great, but they're still moving the ball. Some of that has to do with they've just had so many guys missing because of injury between Winslow and Dragic and some of their ball handlers. They've all missed a decent amount of time. On the defensive side, Miami is 8th, so that gives you a little bit of caution regarding Atlanta players. However, Miami is shorthanded, so I'm sure that defensive efficiency will sink a little bit. The other reason for wanting to play 2 or 3 Heat players is Atlanta is 26th in defense. They do not play D. Kendrick Nunn definitely is a huge, I like to target people against Trae Young, and that's probably who he'll start out on. So, strong plays there on that side. I think that, it's hard not to want to roster, some Miami Heat guys. Let me look at the updated line here. I guess there's a small chance for blowout here. It's 8.5. Not really that bad, though, and Miami is shorthanded, so I would expect this game to stay somewhat close. The over-under is not promising. This is the lowest over-under I've seen for an Atlanta Hawks game all season. It's only 218. So for some reason, that's staying down. I guess they see Miami controlling the tempo and really playing some good D here. Miami Heat implied total 113 and the Hawks 105. Wow, that's low. I think I'd play the over in that game if I was playing betting. Okay, so that's an interesting game. I mean, I can tell you right now, the majority of my build is going to be stack Washington, Charlotte, sprinkle in 2, maybe 3 Heat guys, and take it to the bank. So, all right, we go to the final game on the card. It is the late night hammer sweat game. It starts 2 full hours later than every other game, and it is the New York Knicks at the Portland Trailblazers. So it is Carmelo going against his old team, but it's not in New York. I apologize. I think I stated that wrong at the lead of the show. It is in Portland, but it is against the Knicks, so he gets to go against a familiar team there. The Knicks are a wonderful 4-19, and Portland is 9-15. They've been struggling to get their footing, but that 7th and 8th spot right now in the West, because everybody's beats everybody, is probably going to be, if you can float up to 500, you're going to get in there. So it's that is definitely something to watch. I think they're still going to be pushing on all cylinders to get it done. Let's take a look at any late player news here. I shouldn't say late, it's still early, but I mean up-to-date player news. The Knicks, Wayne Ellington, sore Achilles, will not play again. If you're playing Wayne Ellington, please look me up for head-to-heads. Let's see here. It says here, interim head coach Mike Miller implied that he'll stick with Frank Ntilikina as the starting point guard for the time being. That sounds real positive if you're Frank. For the time being, it looked like in that last game, which was Miller's first game as coach, that he went to Alfred Payton was getting some crunch minutes when it counted. I think he's eventually going to win that job, but obviously it sounds like there's still sort of a dumpster fire there. So don't touch it. Ntilikina, Payton sort of taking over, and then you got Dennis Smith. So it's a nightmare. That coach started the same Knicks lineup that Fizdale started, which was shocking. Usually a new coach comes in, shakes it up with at least 1 or 2 changes, but he stuck with starting Morris and Taj Gibson and regular players. So I would say, go back and look a little bit at the Knicks box score in that game. But I think the coach is just trying to feel it all out and determine, what's what. I mean, the safest play is always Julius Randle. He did play 35 minutes in the first game that Miller coached. He certainly has the highest floor and I would say the highest ceiling for the Knicks. And, there's some other guys. Mitchell Robinson did get 25 minutes in the last game. And he only had 1 foul. So that is, they may want to call the Guinness Book of World Records for that one. I'm not sure how that happened, but it did. So, Robinson's always, if he's going to get 25 to 30 minutes, you almost have to plug him in because, he's going to get rebounds and blocks and, finish with some big thunder dunks. So, he comes into play. He might be a sneaky good center play. I think he should have been playing more than Taj Gibson and sort of that cast of washed up clowns that they have. So I would go, I think he becomes in play. I sort of like it. Plus they need him in there to battle Mr. Whiteside. They need some size. I can't really go too small against him. So put a little circle around Mitch Robb. I think he may be a good play there. News on the Portland side. We've got, let's see here, Kent Bazemore, he will be starting tonight for the second straight time. Certainly a consideration. He's very cheap, but, since Rodney Hood Poor guy blew his Achilles. It looks like Bays has taken over that spot. And that's really the only news. Everybody else is sort of in their roles now. And, the determination of, for me, I've been fading Portland ever since Carmelo got there. And I just don't feel good about it. Carmelo is such a ball hog, and he's going to shoot double-digit shots. And that directly takes away from the duo of Lillard and McCollum, who both need their shots. And then you have Whiteside has been making some noise inside. So, for me, my biggest thing is I can't stand when there's 4 or 5 guys on a team all needing usage. And when that usage is divvied up like that, it hurts. And, some of the usage numbers and stats for Lillard and McCollum especially are really inflated. And that's because Whiteside missed a bunch of time. They didn't have Carmelo at the beginning of the year, and Lillard missed a chunk of time. So especially McCollum, I mean, they were like 34, 35% usage games where those two guys just dominated. So that has sort of disappeared with this team. And, when you look at the pace of this game, New York is third to last in pace. So it is a pace down game, big time for Portland. And that just scares me off of all of their guys, to be honest with you. I don't care that Carmelo's going back against New York. If it was in New York, I would care. But I don't think it's going to make as big of a difference in Portland, because almost every Knick that he played, with or against when he was there, or the coach or even the water boy, I think, was changed. I don't think there's anybody the same. I mean, I know he hates the owner, but, I don't, I wouldn't put too much weight into that. Portland is 9th in pace, so it is a pace up game for the Knicks. It may be a Julius Randle, or if you desperate to fill a last spot on your squad and you need a super value guy, you can look at some of their low price guys like a Damian Dotson or Elfrid Payton off the bench. I mean, those are all options just for salary round out for you. And then as far as the defensive efficiency, we have Portland at 22nd and the Knicks at 24th. So, yeah, both teams are very lousy on defense, and that is why they have the second highest total on the board. So there's going to be a lot of people going to this game for late night sweat reasons, wanting to have the hammer game. And I can see a bunch of people putting Carmelo and Lillard and maybe Randall or Mitch Robb or, something like that. But I don't know if I'm going to go here beyond one, at very, very most 2 guys from this game. Maybe a Mitch Robb, maybe a Julius Randle, but after that, I don't trust the game. It is a 221 over under, so it is definitely the second highest number. Portland's a 115 implied total, which is pretty healthy. That is second on the whole board to Washington. And the Knicks are 106, so, not that great. But remember, Portland's going to divvy it up like crazy. They've got a lot of mouths to feed on that squad, so there is some concern there. So, all right, that is it. That is a nice, tidy, playable 4-game slate. Hopefully you took a lot away from this to help you start building some lineups. Watch the news. I think we've got the majority of the news, except, there are the questionable tag on Bam Adebayo is definitely the biggest news of the night. That you need. But most of the other news is answered. And remember, with only one 7 o'clock game, that's when the slates are going to lock on FanDuel and DraftKings. There's no late swap on either one of those. So the 2 8 o'clock games and the 10 o'clock games, you need to make sure your guys are going to play. A 0 kills a roster for you. So follow that news tightly. If you do want to take a few guys that you can pivot to on the sites that allow late swap, being DraftKings and Yahoo, then I would say, you could feel a little more comfortable if you did want to put a BAM in there and then make a late switch if news doesn't break before lock. So, all right, that's it. I guess my best advice here, follow the news, stack up that Washington-Charlotte game. Don't be duped into loading up on the national Denver-Philly game, and, take some stuff down. Be selective of the sites. Be selective of the either tournaments or cash games you get in, and make some money. So again, follow us on Twitter throughout the day, all the way up until lock. I'm at Joe Sarvadi, JoeSarvadi. Follow our other DFS pros there, at MikeApotra, Mike Apotria, at Language Olympic, and at Miles6565. And then our hoop-ball.com forums, slide on there and follow some stuff as well. So definitely rate, review, subscribe our pods. Give us some 5 stars. We love that stuff. And hope you really enjoyed today's broadcast. I am planning on tonight's show for tomorrow's slate to be on there with my man Mike Apotria this evening. So definitely tune into that for a Wednesday slate that has 3, 6, 9, 11 games. So it looks like Apotria and I are going to be burning the midnight oil here, breaking down a big 11-game slate late tonight so that you can listen to it tomorrow morning. So, all right, make a bunch of money tonight and, log on. Really set the alarm on YouTube and such so you know when our stuff posts so you can listen in and you don't miss out. All right, I really appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for joining me on another episode of Hoopball NBA DFS today. For Mike Apotria, Andrew Hansen, Miles Hartley, I am Joe Sarvadi, coach. We will catch you again tomorrow as we look to crush it on an NBA DFS.
This has been a Hoop Ball presentation.